I'm Sir Flowbojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm Teflon Frosthammer.
And I'm Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this
is
WAK.
If Amtgard knighthood means anything, you can't knife a motherfucker and keep it.
And the thing that people need to understand essentially about arts and sciences events is that your scores don't matter.
Do you want a black phoenix or a white phoenix?
Jeez, language, man. We're on a
right.
freaking podcast, for fuck's sake.
Mind-blowing experience, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to WAK, where we discuss topics important to the Amtgard community at large and talk with interesting people from around the foam fighting world. This week, we have on a very special guest, someone that we have been wanting to get on for quite some time. Gorg the Blacksmith, thank you so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Gorg the Blacksmith. I am a knight in Belgarth and Dagger here, and I make a few weapons here and there. And, I just try and put my best foot forward and kind of keep the game moving, make it more accessible.
Absolutely. I mean, so first off, you get an award for biggest understatement of the podcast, a weapon here and there. We're all pretty familiar with your stuff. Why don't you tell us about how you got into Belgarth Dagger here, foam fighting in general, LARP? How did you get into that?
Sure. So years ago, from like 2007 to like 2010, I got into airsoft, if you know much about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so, same idea, military simulation. We're not actually soldiers using toy guns and, that kind of thing. And we got into a lot of science fiction crossover type games.
Okay.
And one game we had designed was based on the Fallout universe, like the computer game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would start out with like a spring gun or a low powered or melee. And we were like, well, how does melee work? So you get to Googling online and looking around. You found like basic Amtgard sword tutorials, right? So we started doing that. And it goes over, people have a blast, right? Because nobody really does that unless you knew what it was back in 2010, right?
Right, yeah.
Community and outreach and things like that have grown so far since then. Long story short, I go to a Gen Con, which is a gaming convention. We're doing some airsoft stuff there in a side room.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was Ed Helen Armory, which is now Forged Foam.
Yeah.
Had a booth that you could like fight and win something.
Holy cow.
And they were into airsoft. We ended up trading airsoft like camouflage uniforms.
Uh-huh.
For boppers. And then I got a bunch of information from Sir Gallen about Belgarth. And then people started coming to the airsoft game that also played Belgarth, but it was like 2.5 hours away in Orlando. I get invited out, and it just kind of becomes my new side hobby. And so in a roundabout way, Sir Gallen got me into playing Belgarth. We were Belgarth back then.
Right.
And then we were Dagger here for about a decade, and now we're back to Belgarth.
What is that? Because I know Belgarth, we've spoken to people who play DAG, and we haven't yet spoken to somebody who does Belgarth specifically. Is it just the same game that's split, or what's the deal there? How different are they?
To avoid my lack of knowledge and any kind of like old school politics or anything, it is 95% the same game.
Right.
But Belgarth did split off of DAG in the early 2000s. You hear stories here and there. It's not really my job to tell them.
Right.
But I mean, Dagger is always like gonna be my main. But like down here is just people wanted to play Belgarth, so now we play Belgarth. But
no, that's totally understandable. I just didn't know. I always hear them referred to both in the same context. So it's Dag Bell. That weapon is Dag Bell legal, and I was like, are they just the same?
I want to give a tie-in here for some of our longtime listeners too. If you remember Sir Kazan's interview that we did way back in the day, he was talking about his park, Darkwater East, which was one of the bigger parks, started falling apart around the same time that the Dag and Bell groups in that area started picking up, of which Gorg is one of the people in that area. So I don't know if it's a one-to-one connection. I would need to talk to some people that have been around down there longer, but I bet if you had gotten into this maybe 4 years sooner, you would have been an Amtgard guy, Gorg.
literally the only thing down here for like a decade was Amtgard. I do know that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That this goes back to something we've talked to a bunch of people on the show, and I think it was Sir Michael who said, like, basically you play whatever was present when you started.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And then the foam fighting
Sure.
kind of continues. So you're most notably known for the stuff that you make. Anybody who's seen the three stars or 3 asterisk design, I'm not sure what that's referred to as. That's Gorg Tech, and Gorg Tech is a phrase that gets thrown around quite a bit. How did you get into that? When did you realize that was something that could be like something that could get big in all of these?
The 3 stars or weapons in general?
Both. How did you get to the 3 stars as a logo, and then what made you realize making weapons was something you could do?
Yeah, like when
profit?
did Gorg become Gorg the Blacksmith?
Better way of asking that question. Thank you.
Okay. Well, officially, Gorg the Blacksmith was a half-orc barbarian in a 3.5 D&D campaign that I played before I ever got into.
Oh wow!
Of course, yeah.
Bellegarth. Using an orc name generator online combined with my favorite band's pet T-Rex. I don't know if you've heard of the band Guar, but they have a pet T-Rex named Gorgor.
Yes. Oh my God. How did I not realize? Yes, this is so good. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you now.
Yeah. But when you yell across the field, you want one syllable,
right,
so that it doesn't get mixed up with someone saying something else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's how the name came. The 3 stars, actually. Have you seen A Knight's Tale?
I
Yes.
love A Knight's Tale. Yes.
And they use the Nike symbol on the armor.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, everyone knows whose armor that is. We should have a symbol. And I was like, what can your sewing machine print out that's easy? and it had a button on it for stringing together asterisks.
Nice.
But I do also tell people it's like quality craftsmanship and customer service.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we don't usually talk about this on the show, but both Cabbage and I, our jobs in the mundane world are dealing with marketing and business and things like that. And this is very much one of those times where those could have meant anything. Just like the McDonald's arches could have meant anything. You made them stand for those things.
Yeah.
Right.
That very much might have been what you had in mind when you started, but if you had put out, consistently bad stuff or something like that, that's not what they would have inevitably been, but that's not where we are. We're in a place where I have been to weapon checks in Ampguard where they saw your symbol on stuff and just passed it because they knew. They knew that it was good. They knew that it didn't need to be that it didn't need to be checked over.
Right. I like the fact that people know that means it's a good place to start, but I still hope they check it because things wear out.
Yeah,
you know
foam
what I mean?
breaks down over time.
For
Absolutely.
sure. Like while on one hand I'm like, well, that's great. On the other hand, I'm like, please.
Yeah. I might be in that tournament. I want you to check that. I believe in me too, but I also believe you should check that.
In the sake of fairness, what I had seen them checking at the time that they just passed it was a shield, not a sword.
Oh yeah.
So
all foam shields, you can't really fuck those up. Can you curse?
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. We have a swear in our intro, so you're good.
Fair enough.
But
yeah, you can't fuck up an all foam shield. You know what I mean? You really can't unless you got hard bits on the front that you didn't foam over. But yeah.
Well, so Sir Gillen has an all foam shield, and it is 12 years old now.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not that it's fucked up, right? It's still safe to fight around, but that thing is squishy.
Yeah.
It's a dish sponge at this point.
It was the old school. I don't remember the type of foam. It's like 4.4 pound white foam that we used on our shields for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
So you told us a little bit about where Gorg the Blacksmith came from, but take me through the journey of you saying, presumably I'm going to start making my own weapons, to, hey, maybe I could turn this into a business, to producing the types of weapons and equipment that you're now able to produce.
Oh, okay. I'd like to tell you it was laid out and we had a plan. But I'm not a known liar. So the long and short of it is the reason I got into airsoft event hosting is because I enjoyed airsoft so much that I was like, I don't really make a lot of money, but I want to keep doing this. How do I keep doing this for less money? Or how do I pay my way in to these incredible venues?
Yeah.
Right. So
Kinda
your
the
initial
same
goal
thing.
was just like, how do I make my hobby pay for itself?
Yeah, it was literally I found some buddies to play with. They invited to be a part of their team, and then I became the quartermaster. I've always been really good with working on my hands. Before this, I was like a cabinet installer, woodworker, like trim carpenter, made furniture, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I had most of the tools already. So the investment wasn't really there at the beginning. And then it was just, you know, going around and being on the different like weapon crafting pages and gleaning different ideas and kind of doing my own and figuring out what tools I could use that would work. Like it blew my mind that I could run foam through a bandsaw. Like
I've
in
never
my
thought
head, I
about
was
that.
like,
Yeah.
it's gonna grab the edge of it and tear it into the machine, and I'm gonna have like burnt rubber smells. But lo and behold, I run it through and it cuts it perfect. And then same thing with a router table. You wouldn't think you could run foam through a router because it's soft. I'm like, it's gonna pull my hand into the machine. So I had this elaborate like hand protection device with like rollers and this and that. And then it
Smart.
just got to the point. It is smart, and now I do it, 100 miles an hour with a piece of leather in between my hand and the bit, just hoping I don't slip. But don't do that at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it went. Is I was on the team, and like they needed. I felt like nobody really. When someone gets into it, it's very hard to be like, "Hey, it's your first day, make a weapon."
Mm-hmm.
Because there was forged foam, but other than that, there wasn't really much, and they're so far away that like. I don't know. But you need like 30 guys to have weapons. You can't come up with a whole bunch of money right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started making stuff for the team. And then it got to the point where it was like, well, I want to kind of come up with new things. And word of mouth got around. People started buying my extras. If the team needed 5, I'd make 10, sell 5 of them, pay for the 5 I made for the team.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And it just kind of organically built. I did that for 6 months or so before I started giving it like a full shot. And I was still just kind of doing word of mouth Facebook. And, I had a 2-year contract at the local sewer water power as a manhole inspector,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a pretty crappy job. But it paid the bills, but for 2 years from 7 to 4, I had my day job. And then towards the end, from 5 to midnight, I was making swords, and it got to the point where I was making more money after work than I was during work.
That's a good
So
place to be.
Yeah, it's the dream.
Yeah, for sure. And then so we were kind of like, okay, because before it was like I'd make a batch and put them up so I wouldn't have a backlog, because having a backlog is like the worst thing ever. It gives you a bad name really fast if you put out a product and you can't deliver.
Yeah.
Right.
So once it got to the point where I had a couple of months left on my contract, I just had a good talk with my wife, and I was like, what the fuck else are we doing? This seems to be great. People enjoy it. Why don't we give it a year? And if we're fucked in a year, we can always find another job. But if I don't take this year, I'll never know.
Yeah, it's that leap, right?
Shit or get off the pot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we took a couple of months and made an Etsy store and filled it with like a dozen or so items, and I made a whole bunch in advance so that when I launched, I wouldn't have to wait too long, and bought a couple of tools and cashed in my old 401k, had a couple grand on that from a previous job, and
Nice. I mean, that's
Gave
awesome.
gave it a shot. Yeah.
It strikes me as like something, I have a kid. I think you have a child as well. Am I wrong? Because I know I saw Lady Gorg at an event once, and I thought there were children there as well.
I have 2, and I have temporary custody of 1.
Yeah, okay. I just like as
I'll-
somebody with
I'll-
a kid, that's terrifying to me. Like just the leap of faith you took there. But I'm super happy it worked
Well,
out.
my son was 3 and my daughter was 1, or my son was maybe 4.5 at the time. My daughter was 2.5.
Yeah,
It's a bit much, man.
yeah. I mean,
It's a bit much.
it's all the better that it worked out then, because I mean, I imagine you're able to spend
Yeah.
more time with the family and stuff like that.
Oh, I wouldn't trade it. I don't know how to explain. But yeah, we also homeschool, and we do
Mhm.
homeschool co-ops. I just get to spend so much time with
That's
my
awesome.
family. It's actually amazing. Yeah.
Well, I want to take a moment here too, because this is one of the things that I kind of wanted to tie in. Like one of the big things that I wanted to, one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on. I love your equipment. I love your shop. We've hyped it many times on the show. Well deserved. But your story is really what I wanted to show the listeners. This is one of those.
For sure.
This is one of those times, everybody, where you are sometimes faced with a I can't do this situation, or this would be too dangerous, or something like that. And Gorg, just listening to you explain it now, approached it and said, how do we do this? How do we make it work? Like, I'll try it. We'll do this we were doing this half thing, and then we kind of went into it. You cannot put yourself in a mindset where you defeat yourself before you've tried. You know, we wouldn't have Gorg weapons if that had happened. And this is really a situation where you said, no, we're going to try this. We just need to decide how to move forward. And I applaud you for that, sir.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
appreciate it, man. I'm not going to pretend it's always been sunshine and rainbows, but I think a day working for myself and doing what I love is better than the best day anywhere else I've ever been. So
Right. So I want to talk, I guess, business. Not really business.
appreciate
but
your kind words, by the way. I didn't mean to interrupt. But
No,
Oh,
it's
you're fine. We interrupt each other all the time.
Literally, it's half the podcast. But like business-wise, do different games, because I know you have cross-gaming sticks and that kind of thing. Do you have one bestseller for all games, or do different games buy different weapons? You know, what's the big difference there that you notice?
Whenever I tell people my best sellers, they're like, "No way." What? Each of you take one guess real quick. Can we do that?
Yeah, okay.
If I had to guess, I'm going to steal Flo's guess. It's going to be the cross-gaming bat. I think it's the secret bat.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So the 36-inch, like,
Yes.
as light as we're allowed to, but still feels really good in your game.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, my guess is going to be a shield of some kind. I can't, if I have to pin down an exact size, I will, but I'm going to say it's a shield of some kind because shields are fairly universal to all of the Boffer games. And I think that at this point you are likely putting out some of the best shields, if not the best shields on the market.
Thanks, man. So yeah, you're both half right. So with the secret bat, I would say as far as my advanced tech goes, yes, it's absolutely the 36-inch flat bottom secret bat, which is actually the only one we make now because we were selling so many cross gamers compared to the cone bottom.
Right.
Do you know what I mean by that? Like
Yes.
where it meets
Yeah.
the handle?
Mm-hmm.
We were selling so many. It was like 8-1. So I was like, yeah, it's not worth my time to have 2 SKUs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
fair.
if someone wants to custom request it, cool. But I'd rather you just have one that works in amp guard because you have that rule where you have to have 1 inch of foam between the edge and the core,
Right.
which is not a thing in Dag and Bell. It's just a total width.
Interesting.
So that it didn't count as incidental in your game. You had to have 2/3 actual striking.
Yes.
And then as far as shields go, yes, the 27-inch round punch is the staple of the game.
That's one that I bought.
I probably sell 5 of those to every one of anything else.
Really? Of the shield?
Yeah, it's just
shit.
it's good for people that are really good and it's a perfect size for most people. Some people go bigger or smaller. But to hand a new guy a punch shield, they just grab it and they know what to do with it. So
Okay.
people starting up, people in the game for a while, it's just kind of universal. You have that shield for 8 years and you don't have to change it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The shield's always good for something.
Yeah.
But for overall, the number one seller is 3/8 square solid fiberglass basic ass flat blade swords.
Nuh-uh. Just a flat blade?
Because when people buy them, they buy a dozen of them to start a realm.
That makes sense. Yeah, they're your loner weapons. You can, give them out to people as they're coming in.
Hold on. I'm opening your website right now. I got to look at these.
So while he's doing that, 2 things. One, when you said we're both half right, I thought it was going to be some kind of crazy board sword combination, like an old school lollipop and amp guard.
Oh yeah, but yeah, like if you want to go like advanced tech, like people that have been playing for a while, absolutely 36-inch. And then you were right. I guess I might have worded that wrong, but
No. I think that you
people-
worded it well. I just my imagination was said, please make this real.
Oh yeah.
We actually had some Dag Bell people come to our most recent event. We were talking about it a couple of episodes back. Was it last week's episode? Whenever.
Yeah, it was the episode where we recap the Winter's Edge event.
Yeah,
So.
I don't know when this is coming out chronologically. So, but the Bell was there. Let's see. I can't remember.
I've known Bell for a decade.
Have you? Ignatius?
Solid dude.
Yeah,
I know who Ignatius is, yeah.
And both of them were
Hey,
using your stuff. I think Bell has a 29-inch shield from you now, maybe a 30-inch.
Yeah. He had me wrap a couple extra layers on the edge. I think it meets the amp guard medium limit or something.
Max
I can't
medium, yeah.
remember.
It's
Yeah.
31 inches or something.
Yeah, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But yeah, he was he hopped into one of our tournaments and was pretty much slaying with it. It was fun to watch.
Very, very cool.
Grats to Bell for breaking Beefy's polearm again, by the way.
Again.
Yeah. I feel so sorry
Bell,
for Beef. I really do, Beef.
yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Wherever Bell goes, he's always an outlier. He just ends up picking up this style so quick. And it's just he's absolutely phenomenal fighter.
Yeah, one of the things we made a note of in our recap of the Winter's Edge event is we had a class game, Amthgard, differing from Dag and Bell because we have magic and stuff like that. And Bell knew all of the spells and which combos worked well and which enchants he needed to be, sort of min-maxed. It was like
Better than
who
the
are you?
Amtgarders.
You would not guess it, but he absolutely loves class games because I don't know if tryhard's the right word, but he's headhunted, right? Wherever he goes, people want to spar him. He has to fight real hard. He's trying to win tournaments, things like that. He just loves the relaxation and like fun that class games have.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
When he first told me, well, I mean, when I go to Darkon, my favorite is the questing. I fucking love it. Like, you nerd out. You're in your garb. I get to wear more armor than God, and and it's just fun, man. They have like dungeons, and like you get a heat spell at the end of the first dungeon that you melt the ice door in the second dungeon with, and then you get a hourglass that you stop time with on a dungeon that has moving tiles, and it's just fun.
Oh, wow. We actually
Yeah.
just had a conversation with some Darkon folks very recently, and their quest sounded way more interesting than what we currently do in Amthgard. I like their
Bro.
setup.
It's fun. It's super fun.
Have you ever looked into making armor? That's just, you mentioned wearing more armor than God, and I didn't know if that's something you've ever looked into.
So I've made about 90% of my armor. As far as business goes, we've done a little bit of everything, but now that weapons are just basically the staple, I'd rather focus on one, because then I don't have to diversify my materials so much and my time.
Yeah.
But I've done everything from metal plate to leather. I guess that's it. But
Fair enough.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
There's only so much Gorg to go around.
Yeah, but I made my pauldrons and spaulders. I made my bracers, my splinted greaves, my sabatons. But I've had other people make stuff for me too. But yeah, I just work with my hands, man. I really like it. But a lot of brig. I did a lot of brig for sale, like tassets.
Yeah.
Like take a panel and punch a bunch of holes in it and then rivet leather on top of it, like squares.
Yeah.
See, I think that's
Yeah.
really what Cabbage was talking about here. Not necessarily an entire assembled thing, but like here are the pieces that you would slide down into Brigadine or something like that. Something that wouldn't be as labor intensive. For
Yeah.
you. If you do, could you put a little WAK thing in the very bottom of it just for us? Just
Oh,
engrave
for
it on
sure.
there. Yeah.
For sure.
So I want to touch back on something that you said here. So you mentioned when you play Darkon. I'm having a hard time following how many games you're active in. I know that just from different interviews that we've done that people have said, oh yeah, and Gorg played for a little while. How many Boffer games have you played over the course of your Boffer career?
So again, like you said, a 30-minute drive trumps a 3-day drive, right?
Uh-huh.
So what's been down here for a long time, it is Dag and Belagarth. So I would say, probably 80% of what I played is Dag, and I've been to a bunch of Belagarth, probably another 10% at, for Bell. I've been to like 4 or 5 Darkon events now because it's very regional. It's basically West Virginia, Virginia, and DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Maryland. And then I've been to a handful of Amcard things, primarily. So you have to choose when you work in the industry. You have to choose where you're gonna, make back your investment, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So a lot of times DAG events are so close in time or proximity to Amcard. I'd go to the DAG ones just because the Amcard ones have like Warlord, which is now Optimum,
Yeah.
and then like Smiling, Foamworks, and then other people that have made things over time. I don't want to shit in someone else's parade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Gallon, like sometimes we'll do the same events, but if I do, I only take like a box of swords to pay for my gas and food.
Yeah.
Because like that's their established event. You know what I mean? I want a good working relationship with Gallon. He's a great guy.
That's totally fair. Like, part of me wants to say, oh, there's enough room for everybody, but I can understand the working relationship and trying to keep that, on the level. Like, I actually respect that quite a bit.
I do too.
For sure.
So, subject change here. I am new to foam fighting.
Okay.
Let's say in my area it's going to be Dagger Bell for now, but there's Amp pretty close too. And one of my buddies says, "Well, if you want to get started, you can borrow some equipment." And I come out for a couple of months borrowing equipment, and I really, really, really like it, and say, "I'm going to stay in this." And they say, "Well, you need to go pick up a Gorg weapon because it's going to last you a long time. They're solid. You make sure the good stuff." So they go, "Okay, cool," and they go to your website. What I know that we kind of mentioned what some of your most popular stuff is, but what do you think a new person that's just getting into foam fighting should grab? Give me the 2 basics that they should pick up from your site when they go.
Honestly, I would tell them, let's make general assumptions. Normal dude, normal height, like no, that kind of thing.
So not me and Cabbage, yeah.
Yeah,
go
right.
on.
Right. Not like a 6'6" monster, but
yeah, that's definitely a monster.
You 6'6"?
Just a little under that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. But yeah, I would say probably a 27-inch punch and a 34-inch either bat or flat, just depending on what the person wants.
Why?
Now, in Amp card, I noticed flats don't really get used a lot. I'd probably tell them classic bat. And then for right around 100 or so, you've got a good set that will last you a long time. And then when you do want to upgrade, you'll have a bat to give to the next new guy because it's going to outlast you. The classic bats just last a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're not putting when you put a focus on making something like the absolute lightest, and you have something like that, I found when I make a tourney stick that's the lightest stick I can possibly make, they don't last for shit. But if I make a heavier sword that I'm like, this is my loner, those things last forever.
For sure.
So
Yep.
I want to talk construction just a little bit, actually. Don't give away the farm, don't give away all the secrets, but
Yeah.
one of the things I've noticed is when I do something repetitively and when I do it long enough, I learn maybe easier ways to do the same thing with less effort. And so, like, is there something that really stands out to you, having made what has to be thousands of swords by now? Is there something that stands out like, oh, you should just do this because it's 10 times easier and you get the same result? Is there any one, like, construction technique you've learned, or is it just all custom?
I would say honestly, man, there's jigs, right?
Uh-huh.
So like I'm big on jigs, and I have a jig for everything, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna sound silly, but if you're building a flat blade, you want to install the core while it's still wet, which goes against everything contact cement stands for. But you want your fry dry. And the reason is when you put a round thing into a round channel, it's going to hit the edges first and not seat all the way into the channel. So you want the core slightly wet with the fry dry. And then I use a PVC tee, like a T-joint.
Yeah.
And I use it as an air squeegee. So I take a rubber cap off of a band shop you know, the little rubber caps that come with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you put it on the T side, and I make a tool out of it. So as I'm laying the fry in, I'm putting it on a piece of poplar that I plane through a planer, and then I'm squeegeeing it flat onto the core and the other side of the fry. And that way I'm not getting it stuck in weird places or twisted or this or that. There's no air bubbles.
Yeah.
And it's one of those little things you look at and you're like, I'm retarded for never using that. Like,
Right.
So
why didn't I do this?
everything that you just now said is why I'm willing to throw money at getting equipment, because I'm sure that for you, that was one of the coolest processes of discovery, you know, and for me, I'm listening to it going, no, like, I don't care how long I made swords. None of that would have ever come to me. I would have been sitting here,
Same.
you know, still with a box opener knife, shaving off the sides to try and get a better torque on it or something like that.
I mean, the making
go
a
ahead.
jig for everything has to come from your cabinetry background, right? Because I've had to deal with cabinetry exactly once, and props to you for doing that. That is the one thing in my house that I won't try to fix anymore, because that is madness.
Yeah. If you don't know, you don't know. But it's the same thing. They don't make a tool for half the things you do in cabinetry. They just don't. You have to make your own.
Yeah.
Like, I can put a cabinet on the wall and take both hands off it, and it doesn't fall off the wall
That's more
without
than
any
I can
screws
do.
in it.
Yeah, that's so much more than I can do.
Yep. But it's a jig. It's you cut a channel out of a 2x4, run it sideways on the other side of a 2x4, hot glue the bottom of a third 2x4 so you have grip on the ground, and then you kick the front of it, and it like holds the front against the wall. So as it comes down, it has outward pressure and it can't fall off the wall. But it's like that kind of thing with foam too, though. But what's good about foam compared to wood is I'm basically doing simple inlays of cores into foam rather than wood into wood. But foam is forgiving. I can push harder and make it fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this is awesome. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking about how I make swords and how I can apply that, like how I can apply a jig in general to like what I'm doing.
For sure.
I like it. Yeah. Because I'm just thinking like I can already make a jig for like getting the foam to the right size and then getting the yeah. I like this. Damn. That was way more fruitful than I thought it was going to be, to be honest. I got some ideas now.
For sure. Yeah, everything I do has a jig, man. Once I'll do 2 or 3 things while I'm trying to figure out where stuff goes, and immediately a jig is either made out of 1/4-inch plywood or 1/8-inch plastic. Like, I got a bunch of this plastic stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, where straps go, where handles go.
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks to the consistency of everything too, because I've
sure.
seen, you know, in 2 different locations halfway across the eastern United States, and it's the basically the same sword in 2 different spots. Like,
Yeah.
For sure.
that's sick.
And especially with the secret stuff, it is very, very small batch. I kind of think of it as like the craft beer that I make.
Right.
You
What,
know,
what
it
makes
is-
it secret? I guess that's the secret, right?
So yeah, we use a bunch of silly names. We had Black Market for a while. You know, I thought about the guy in a trench coat from Resident Evil 4. Like, what are you buying?
What are you buying?
Yeah.
You know, like Black Market, and then Secret. Well, what's more behind the scenes than Black Market? Secret. It's a secret. I don't know, man. We come up with weird names.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Barbarian Blade was like, I have a few buddies that are like super swole, and they were the guys that tested it and couldn't break it. I'm like, this is the Barbarian Blade.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the secret, for a while, we spent like 2 years doing R&D on the counterweighting. That's, I guess you could say that's the secret.
Really?
Yeah, we get, they're made out of lead, but don't do this at home as well. We were smelting lead in my backyard. And
That sounds
trying
like
to
a bad idea. Just off the cuff. Sounds
I
like
have a story about this, actually.
But you have secret bats now.
Yeah.
So
that-
was it a
but
bad idea or a good idea?
It was a good idea. This
Fair
again is one of those, like, you know, you got to reach out and try it. It's not I can't do it. It's how am I going to make it work?
For sure. But yeah, smelting lead around a kite spark core and trying to get the kite spark to release, so I could like have donuts of lead for a core to bring the balance point down. once we figured out it worked, I pay people exorbitant amounts of money to use their machines to do this now.
Right.
Think of a block of lead being pushed through a Play-Doh machine.
Oh, holy shit.
And this is what their machine does to the exact diameter of kite spar. And then I cut it to size and, and build the pommel around that.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I said I have a story about this. It's not anything Amped Guard related. I had a buddy in high school who worked, we had a vocational school, and he was doing an automotive thing, and they have a lot of, like, lead counterweights.
Yeah.
And lead melts at a really low temperature.
Yeah.
So
it does.
If you're just bored around a campfire and just your buddy has a bunch of lead bricks, you can melt them bad boys in a muffin tin, and then you have liquid lead that I don't know what you do with it. Pour it on leaves.
For sure.
We didn't do anything useful with it. We were just like, look, it melts. Oh God, what do we do now?
What's really cool, if you pour it into an ant bed fast enough and you have enough.
Oh, I've seen this.
You can dig it up and it shows you all the tunnels from the ant bed.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to do that. I saw someone make a art piece out of that. They like flipped it upside down afterwards and made kind of a tree.
Like coral, kind of. Yeah.
And
it's pretty
ants
neat.
suck, so it also gets rid of the ants, which is nice. Because I fucking hate ants. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, down here in Florida, they'll kill you if you
The
get
fire
the right
ants.
kind.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's cool. I didn't actually know how much went into the counterweighting on those, so that's actually really awesome. I want to talk
A
more.
lot up front, not as much anymore because I pay people to do it.
Yeah, right.
Fair enough. You get them to punch it through a die, and I imagine that saves a lot of effort at least.
For sure.
How do you? So, actually, interesting question. How do you even find people to do that? Is that just like you knew people from your other background, or do you say like, I need lead donuts punched? Who can do it? Like, where do you go to find that?
Are you part of a makerspace that does it, or?
Oh yeah, that's a good thing.
No, that's one of the parts. What I'll say is a lot of Google, a lot of phone calls, a lot of explaining to normies what I'm trying to do.
Okay, it's exactly what it sounds like. Then that's what I thought. You'd have to just dig a lot.
I'm not going bald from age. I'm going bald from explaining to the 50th foam guy what I'm doing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What now?
Yeah. You want to do what?
So
What?
I had a question for you. The just to kind of recap part of the conversation that we've had here, too. When you're new, go and pick yourself up one of the, let's say, 34, 36-inch swords, your preference flat or Omni Blade, what we would just call a regular sword in Amp-Guard. 27-inch shield is one of the really popular ones, and these will last you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say, and these will last you, forever. You'll be passing these down to, the amp guarders or dagger bell people that come after you, very likely. What were you going to say?
Specifically punch, because it can be used by left-handed and right-handed people.
Oh yeah, good point. I grew up on strap shield in amp guard, specifically middle strap, perfectly center mounted strap, and
yeah, you can flip those.
I realized that after a long time that the person that had taught me how to fight also used that, but that wasn't a standard thing. And we had a lot of people that ended up switching, and it took quite a bit of time to retrain that. So, I'm all for the punch shield. We also don't have as many punch shields in Amp Guard. I know that they're very common in Dag and Bell, but for whatever reason, a lot of the people that became famous fighters in our game did not use punch shield. And so we're seeing kind of a renaissance, at least in Winter's Edge. I'll let anyone else in the comments here from the other kingdoms comment and let us know if punch shields are kind of beginning to be a thing in your kingdom too. I would say in the past 5 years, we've started seeing more punch shields than we had in the previous 18 years of the kingdom's history.
I have a theory behind that.
Ooh.
Go on.
It's a simpler build to make a strap shield. It's just that simple. Run
that's
2 belts through it, you have a strap shield.
Yeah. Okay.
In order to learn how to get a pipe to not protrude top or bottom or pull out, it's a little bit of a more difficult build. Now, it's not much, but it's enough to where you could be like, most Amp Guard parks 10 years ago when I started, there's a pull noodle and golf club, and you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I honestly think that's why it blew out flat blades, is because you could go to the thrift store, get 10 golf clubs for $10, hit up the Walmart sales section, get 10 Puma noodles for $10, and 10 of your buddies can fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's how it was when I played.
Yeah.
For sure. And before all foam shields, which is relatively new as well, probably 10, 12, 14 years maybe,
Mm-hmm.
you had to glue something to plywood. And to get a handle on that, you had to use a garage door handle, which made it really front heavy, or you nailed a couple of belts to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember we used this is dating me, but in Tennessee it still snowed back then, so we would get the round shields,
The sleds.
Yeah, sleds.
yeah, and use those to make if somebody was looking for more of a dome shape, and use those with a lot of foam around the side. And then the handle that we would often grab was one of the boating handle. It was out of the boating section in at Walmart. It's like a nylon handle that had a
Like
little
a
bit
cleat?
of yeah. Well, a little bit like a cleat, but a nylon cleat.
Yeah, yeah.
No, is that what that was?
Yeah,
And
that
I
was-
never fucking realized?
Yeah, it's literally a boating. It's like something that you put on a boat to drag it to the dock or something.
No.
Yeah, to tie the rope around.
God, I feel dumb.
Huh.
I never knew that.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
So there's actually a funny saga when we first started seeing the all foam shield tech, at least in our part of the Mystic Glade at the time, where it was the hottest. Like you said, it was the hottest shit. We saw all shield foam. Like, oh my god, shield foam! How do we get it? And getting shield foam back then was like, I could have bought cocaine easier than I could have bought shield foam.
Absolutely.
Like,
Man. Yeah.
I got a guy driving up from Florida, and he's got 2 planks in his flatbed, and if we cut these right, then we'll get 2 mediums, 1 large, and 3 small punches, and, trying to divvy out who's going to help pay for the whole plank and everything. It was madness.
Yep. One of the first Ragnaroks I went to before I started selling there, that's our big Super Bowl up north.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had 10 planks of foam, and that's what I sold to pay for my trip.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because minimum orders on some of this shit will make you cry. Like I have to get almost everything big like that freighted in, and for the average dude to do that, it's just impossible.
Yeah, we've run into this issue before trying to buy kite spar, where like we found the right type of Amthgard kite spar, but like 1 stick is $14, but it's $60 for shipping, and then it's $60 for shipping if you order 20 sticks. So you have to find
Find your buddies. Yep.
Yeah, and then you have to do a group order, and that's chaos to organize. Well, yeah, I can imagine the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about what Gorg does just for fun. I know that you play all of these different games, obviously Dag/Bell being your primary. How much would you say, like, when you go out and fight, how much of it is just fighting? How much of it is like, dealing with weapons and things like that? Because I imagine when you show up to park, people want to talk to you about business or sword making in
For
general.
sure. Well, what the benefit I have is a lot of the events I go to are the same group of guys floating around all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what the first couple years you're doing it, it kind of peters out as much because they all know you. They're your buddies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
But last 2 years aside,
Yeah.
I would say because my wife is my back end and head salesperson at events, I'm probably 80-20, man. I'm 80% doing like stuff with my unit or on the field or fighting or this or that. And then I take breaks and get to the shop so I can answer the more detailed, in-depth questions and like help people super specifically.
Right.
But yeah, my wife's a rock star, man. She really, the company wouldn't be anywhere without her, honestly. I have a problem with giving things away. Which is great in some instance, but at the same time, it's a business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But when I can, I mean, I love doing like raffles or helping out with tournaments or this or that. But yeah, the short answer is about 80-20.
That's a way better split than I would have thought.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also the leader of our unit or co-leader.
So a unit is a dagger here
company.
specific. Yeah, fighting company adjacent for Amthgarders listening.
Seraphim or Triad or Torches, that kind of thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. Ours is the Keepers of the Obsidian Stag or Kodos.
Oh, I like that.
Nice. Also, I'm glad that my fighting company made the list there. People remember us.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of Triad guys. Gunn was actually the roommate of a really, really good friend of mine in college. His name's Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know
shit.
Warlord Gunn?
Yes, he actually just got knighted at this most recent event, and he's a local at our park.
Warlord Sir Gun, sorry.
Yeah, he's in my fighting company. Gunn and I go get Korean barbecue quite a bit.
Yep,
We're
love the guy.
Very cool.
we're paying their rent at this point.
Very, very nice guy.
No. He said,
perhaps I get in the face then.
Yeah. No, definitely he's a good guy. Definitely one of those people that, like, once you're a friend, he'll do anything for you. He's just one of those guys.
Well, but
my in is probably Jedi then.
He actually brought one of your bats to park, though. I think he
did.
won it or something, but he brought one of your bats to park, and like it was the first time a lot of us had seen Gorg Tech, and it was super cool because we were all manhandling it, like, oh, this feels really good.
Very cool.
You mentioned raffles earlier. The way that I learned about your stuff, I had heard of you, of course, but there's a difference between hearing of you and going, oh yeah, I heard that he makes good stuff, and then actually holding something for the first time. Was at Winter's Edge. It was a
Symposium.
ANS Symposium, I think 2018. Your wife had come down, and in our raffle there was a small shield put in. It's probably only maybe 6 inches in diameter.
Very cool.
I think that in Dagger Bell it would the strapping system on it is kind of set up to be like a
buckler.
Yeah, a buckler of some kind. Very small.
Yeah, little 12-inch guy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
See, in AmpGuard we use stuff like that. Like, I'll go into a ditch and I use it to practice my hand blocking or something, because in certain parts of a tournament, hand blocking is useful for us. So certain
100%. Different
games have different rules on how that works, but that was how I got introduced to your stuff, and I realized after Sir Gunn and Sir Zeb and a lot of the other pipe swinging motherfuckers at our park had been beating the hell out of this thing for I don't know how many months. It didn't have a scratch on it. I mean, it was just as solid as the day that I had picked it up, and it made me go, man, I didn't think about it at the time. I didn't think about it when I was using all of this stuff, but this has now become one of those pieces of gear that I toss in my bag, and when new people come out to the park or something like that, I don't care if they fall on it and crawl on it and whatever else. It just stays together.
Very cool.
I mean, if they're falling
Very,
and
very
crawling,
cool.
we need to have a talk about their drinking habits or something. But
No, you were at our park. You know how our newbies are.
Yeah,
No
that's
offense, newbies.
But in Dag and Bell, that's the actual minimum allowed is 12 inches.
really,
So I was like, we'll just start making them. No one makes them. Why not? Same thing with a boot knife. The boot knife was a rule change a couple years ago to where anything under 18 inches in length has no weight or balance requirement. Because to make something that small is really hard to make 12 ounces without making it feel like crap.
yeah,
Right.
And I mean, that's the same thing. Like, no one's making these. Why not? And people love them.
What?
Yep.
What purpose does a boot knife have in
So if you're like a spearman, you want to clip something to your belt in case you get armed or something, you can still swing and stab with it.
I want a boot knife.
Yep.
Are these AmpGuard legal also? Because I want one.
Yeah.
I think so. It's 2/3 padded.
Yeah. Sick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look these
Yep.
up.
Yeah, they're cool.
AmpGuard legal depends on who you've paid to check weapons.
No,
You're not-
AmpGuard
you're
legal.
not- You're not wrong.
Listen, we have a very stringent set of requirements. Nah, he's right. I can't really deny it.
That's every game, though. I feel like the regional weapons checking differentials are the bane of my existence.
Yeah, it's got to
It
be
comes with
hard.
It's extremely difficult, and that's why I listen to everybody when they have actual feedback for me.
Yes,
Everybody.
this was going to be a question that I had actually that I sort of lost in my list of notes. But you do make stuff that complies with a wide variety of games, and I mean, obviously, you're kind of beholden to whatever requirements those games put out. If DAG changes the rules, you'll have to change your swords, I imagine. Do they ever consult with you when they're looking into processes like that? It seems to me like they would consult with all of the vendors because that's a big part of foam fighting and LARPing in general. But do they ever consult with you?
So it's a double-edged sword, right?
Uh-huh.
I on one hand would like, how do I word this? On one hand, I don't want them to, because then it looks like I'm puppet master.
Okay.
And you don't want
and
them to
I'd
find
rather-
out that you are.
Well, no, it's you are joking, and I'll take it as a joke. But I've heard that before, and I'm like,
Oh, no.
I'm not that guy. I don't
So-
know the people. You know what I mean?
I'm
Right.
gonna just pause for just one moment. This is actually a reoccurring bit on our show, Gorg, where
Yeah.
the guest comes on and legit, no matter what game they play, no matter what they're doing, they say, "Oh, I am a leader. I'm a crown knight in my game, so everyone says I'm the puppet master," or I'm the warlord who is arranging some of our battle games and our tournaments, so everyone says I'm the puppet master. So it was absolutely a joke, but you're now added to the WAK family of people that are all puppet masters somehow.
Fantastic. Well, everyone loves a great conspiracy theory, right?
Oh, don't they?
So I will say, I was the head of a Dagger Here chapter for a while, and so I was the representative at RWC. But
Mhm.
before that, someone did ask me to come speak about a possible rule change. What they were going to do at the time was try and make omni weapons have to balance above the middle, and it just scientifically and build wise doesn't make any sense, and it was going to cost the players thousands of dollars to try and make that happen.
Right.
Like, your handle's the heaviest part of your weapon. It always will be.
Yeah.
So to try and make it way above the middle, I was like, you're going to have people gluing bolts in the wrong end of their core.
That was
to
my
get it to
immediate
pass.
thought. Yeah, you put something in the
Yeah.
other end. Yeah, God.
Well, I mean, a guy just spent, between 60 and 80 bucks on a sword. He's not going to throw it away and rebuild it. He's going to try and retrofit.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to have people slinging bolts at each other's teeth. And not only that, what are you trying to remedy? If you're good with a flat, you're good with a bat. Like, you're still going to die. And so there wasn't really a great argument other than aesthetics. And my point was, it's a hell of a lot easier for a new guy to throw together a bat than to not. And then my argument also was, for anyone thinking I'm here saying this trying to make money, I said, if I was trying to make money, I'd vote for the rule change and sell $10,000 worth of bats in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that's a whole bunch of new gear you got to sell people, right?
That I have to design and they have to get in order to comply.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was asked about that, and then also boot knives. I was like, look, guys, this doesn't ruin the game. People just want flat daggers that sit tight against their side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because our old ones are the little round guys that look like broke off beer bottles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, we basically took some 18-inch little blades in that did weigh 12 ounces, and I was like, this thing sucks. It hurts.
Right.
So yeah, they have not the game as a whole, but I was asked by a buddy who was a rep for his realm at the time to speak if called upon. But as far as like, do people ask? No, and I kind of hope that they don't,
Fair.
if
That's
that
fair.
makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can definitely see it from both sides. I think I side with
Yeah.
you on that. Like, I'd rather just not get asked about it because I don't ever want to have my hand in that pie when things come around.
Right. But like, if you guys were to ask me a specific thing based on a possible rule change, like in Bellegarth, they just allowed 10-ounce leather to be used to make like hide armor.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Everything in DAG is 1 point anyway. So my point was, you can go to a Tandy, buy a giant side that's at least 10 ounces, but it's a lot harder to find the 12 ounce, and the average dude can't tool it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, to water form that thick of a leather is kind of a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So-
anyway,
What is the? Because I know that you mentioned some custom stuff earlier. I don't know how often you get stuff like that. What is the? I'm going to say weirdest weapon you've ever made, and this isn't any offense to whoever commissioned it. I just can't think of a different wording. Like the most unique weapon that you have ever crafted for someone.
like for the memes or something that I actually enjoyed making.
Both.
Yeah, let's say both.
Sure. For the memes I made for myself, it was, how do I explain this? I would almost have to draw you a picture. Think of it this way: a 5-foot axe.
Okay.
Now this was a decade ago when I first became a squire. Our deity system is based off the band Guar, so I had to make the guitar for the Lord Balsac.
Okay.
Yeah, the Jaws of Death is our god in this
Oh.
game, because we're super serious and professional people.
Right. Of course.
We understand.
So the front was like a really like exaggerated bladed axe, but then on the back of the axe, part of it was courtesy padding so I could grab it. So I grabbed really low near the pommel and then up by the head and kind of use it as a big long blocking utensil,
Mm-hmm.
and then like be able to red with it, which is two-hand damage by swinging it that way. But then the back of it, I took the axe blade, flared out 2 pieces of 4-pound into a hammer, and then the end of it was a stab tip. So I had a hammer on the back, an axe on the front, and then a spear tip on the end of it that I could half sword basically.
This sounds very like American Gladiator almost.
For sure. For sure. I built it as part of a relic I had to make in order to please my deity in my knighthood.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Convoluted way of, hey, go craft something really weird and make it work.
Right.
Yep.
That's pretty funny.
I gotta say the big goobery axes are a lot of fun. Beefy, a local at our park, he's actually been on the show before. He made an axe which I don't know how he made it. As best I can tell, it's a medium punch shield that he just sort of took 2 divots out of, and so it made a double-headed axe, and then he ran a core through it.
Yeah.
And, and I got to use that in a battle game recently, and like it was basically a shield, right? I could block with it if I mean it was shield proportions to cut out. And guy, I was having a good time with that thing.
Yeah, you kept on heroic striking people.
I made axe puns constantly. Can I ask you a question?
Oh yeah.
Let's cut to the chase. Like
it reminds me of. Or go ahead.
Oh no, I was being an absolute idiot with that thing. That's all.
I remember. Do you guys know? I'm gonna get this wrong. Years and years ago, he was a member of the Green Dragons. His name's Glenn Mallet of Providence or something.
Yeah, he's been on the show before.
Yeah, Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn Mop.
I like Glenn. MOP. Kiara, his longtime girlfriend, was she was fighting down here for a while and was petitioning our unit at a time. We're talking a decade or more ago.
Right.
And he was down here at the time doing college. And I remember seeing a picture of him with a giant axe like that. Maybe it's the same one. I think it was. It took up half the screen. Like you said, it was like a 36-inch shield with divots cut out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a ton of fun.
Glenn, former Darkwater East member, tie back to earlier. Also, Kiara also been on the show. That episode's released, right?
Yeah, that episode's out.
I was going to say I thought that it had also been on the show. Love both of them. Wish that they were back up in the Tennessee area. Unfortunately, they're being super successful doing other things.
Good for them.
I would imagine Texas or New Mexico. Am I right?
I think New Mexico, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't.
Anyway, they were down here for a long time, and I really enjoyed the time that they were here.
Yeah.
He's just. Both of them are just fun to hang around.
He's also incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible fighter.
He actually he posted something on Facebook because for whatever reason I'm friends with him. He won an SCA tournament recently, I think.
Yeah, he got knighted in Midgard, so he went to SCA to die.
Like you do.
I would imagine so. Over there with Sir Spin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the point in the show where we want to know kind of a funny story or a crazy story you have about LARPing, foam fighting in general, and I understand that you had maybe 2 that you wanted to tell. So if you've got a story to tell, now's the time, and you can break those up however you want to, if you're ready.
It's hard for me to think because of the long hiatus. I mean, we've been doing day battles and things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess it kind of ties into the business. I'm not going to name names because it's a little rough, but
fair.
We'll call him or her Johnny.
Let's call this the redemption arc story. How about that?
Let's
fair
do
enough.
that.
Yeah.
So I get the years wrong because I'm 37 now, and those things happen. But
fair.
Maybe a year after I knew I was going to be making stuff full time, I'm at RAG and I'm asking around because I've become friends with a few vendors and big wigs and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking around, because I was kind of selling through other people's booths because I wasn't quite big yet.
Sure.
And I ask I'm trying to say it without saying it. I asked this person, how do you get to sell at Ragnarok? I'm doing some of these smaller events, this, that, and the other. And they're like, well, kind of gave me the runaround. They basically insinuated it wasn't going to happen because there was too many weapon vendors. And then so I asked another guy, and I go, well, how do you do this? How'd you get in here? And he's like, oh, give me this long story about how he did it, this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, cool. Do you think I could apply for next year? And he's like, he looked at me deadpan and he was like, you will never, ever, ever be a vendor at Ragnarok.
Oh, wow. Eat a dick, my guy.
Yeah. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, I've held some of your stuff and this, that, and the other and blah, blah, blah. And I just don't like it. And I was like, at that time, I was mid-20s and he was the boomer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So my goal was to be at Ragnarok the next year, selling in my own tent. So again, I get home and I go, time to take it into second gear, babe. It's time to shit or get off the pot. Small things, this, that, and the other. And this was right about the time I started the website. So between that time and 6 months later, when you had to have your application in, not only was I at every event in the Southeast, but my biggest customers, and this blew my mind because Etsy has let you know where you're selling things, who's buying what.
Right.
Yeah.
California and New York and Michigan lit up like a Christmas tree.
Weird.
And I would go to the event pages of these things that I wasn't able to make it to. And I might not have been New York. I think it was Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. Anyway, places I'd never been.
Right.
And half the field's using my shit by that time. Like half the field. It's blowing my mind. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I get everything together. I get my list together. It was actually pretty difficult. They want to make sure you're not a fly-by-night person. You can actually have stuff for a week, right? I get it. But that year, a couple people stopped making stuff. A couple people stopped selling like consignment stuff. And not only do I get in, but I mean, humble flex, I guess you'd call it, humble brag. Like, I think I did more at that Ragnarok than I did the previous 6 months online.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good stuff.
And that guy didn't come back the next year. And I don't ever tell me I can't do something. You know what I mean? Especially when I'm going about it the right way. And nothing I did, made these people stop. It's just, someone else is sleeping. I'm up at night grinding. You know what I mean? And for the people that helped me sustain this last year with no events, like, I don't really know how to thank you other than I'm still here.
Yeah.
And this year has actually been probably the best year ever since like March. Has been the absolute best year that we've ever had.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really cool. Subway and I, maybe 3-4 months back, we had been wanting to pick up something for a while, and Subway was like, not a whole lot of events going on. Guy might need some stuff right now anyways, and we've been wanting to try out some of his stuff, so we both bought one of your 27-inch shields. I ended up giving mine to Teflon because I am big and am fat and need a bigger shield, and the 27 fits him great. So I am already in the works to purchase another larger shield from you, but Subway loves his 27-inch.
Yep.
Uses it all the time. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also good to hear that things are bouncing back since COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I had been curious how that affected things. I can't imagine it had been good, so that things are going better is fantastic to hear.
I said it earlier in the podcast. The worst day working for myself is better than the best day I've ever had working for someone else.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And there's always been people practicing with their little bubbles and being safe and things like that. It never stopped coming in. But yeah, ever since like February, March, it's been absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I'm out here living the dream.
Dude, it was a cool story too, because you had a strike when the iron's hot sort of thing going on there, right? But there was still a lot of there was still naysayers, and I think that you're always going to run into that in life, right? I don't want to wax poetic with everybody here, but I mean, you really will, no matter what you want to do, you're going to run into people that are like, I don't think that's a good idea for you, or I don't think that you can do that. And all of us get told from the time that we're very young.
I think we lost him.
We did. I'm going to keep on talking. All of us get told from the time that that you're very young. Hey, Gorg's back. That you, the language that gets used is you can't do this, and it's by people that absolutely have the best intentions for you, that want the best for you, because
Sometimes
because what you're suggesting is something that will be difficult. They can see the hard path ahead of you, and absolutely admire anyone who says, I want to find a way to make this work.
Sure. And you're not wrong, but that wasn't what this guy meant.
Yeah.
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 Fuck that dude in particular, because
Yeah,
that sounds like
absolutely.
a real dick move. But,
You're not wrong.
Well, do you have anything else for us? If not, we're going to roll the outro, but I wanted to give you another just moment in case you had anything else.
Well, I've been a dad for a long time. If you'd allow me to say a couple of words on that, that'd be great.
100%.
Absolutely.
So I was a squire for like 6.5 years or so. And what I learned most in that time is nobody's going to remember that you won that tournament 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the new guy that you helped, that, becomes a realm leader or becomes a squire, or just enjoys the game and gives him a little bit of time away from life, and he's going to remember that you helped him out. I tell people I'm in the business of making memories.
Mm-hmm.
Your warrior moments on the field, the times you get to spend with your realm mates, and just a lot of people have been, jumping in their backyards to just get out of the house through all this crap we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
And yeah, just it goes further than the foam and the cores and the money and this and that. I do it genuinely because I want people that later in life, or even now, they look back and they remember a lot of really, really good times. And I'd like to share one, something that I was like 10 years old, a little story that about me and my dad.
Yeah, go for it.
I haven't really talked about it much, but my dad passed in June for some unforeseen cancer and different things that happened. And, I tried to, and I still try to remember the really, really good times and all the things he taught me and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really funny story. We're over at my buddy's house, lives around the corner in my old neighborhood. And it's like, him and his brother were the same age as me and my brother, about 3 years apart.
Okay.
We did a lot of Boy Scouts and stuff. My dad's chilling in the front yard talking to their mom, a bunch of shit in his hands, and just kind of like standing out there talking. We're out there playing wiffle ball or something, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine gets the idea, sees my dad's not wearing a belt. And he pops out of the bushes as fast as he can freaking run, runs by and pantses him, right?
Okay.
So you hear his pants hit the ground. My dad just kind of looks around, kind of chuckles, picks his pants back up, doesn't even skip a beat, just keeps talking. The other brother runs out of the other side of the yard, and my dad kind of has a grip on his pants now, so you had to yank him down. You could like hear his keys and his wallet smack the ground. So that's number 2. And number 3, guy tears out of the woods again, pantses him, still hasn't missed a beat. And this third time when he got pants, he just kind of steps out of his pants, picks him up, puts him in his hands, and keeps talking. He's like, can't beat him. I know these people. Who gives a shit? But that's just the kind of guy my dad was. Didn't let things get to him. And yeah, make memories. Hold on to the good ones. Life's too short to hold grudges. And we all have a decision to make. We're all going to make a mark somehow. Decide what kind of mark you're going to make. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, Gorg, thank you so much. That was honestly beautiful. We're going to roll this outro.
Absolutely.
All right, let me hit this real quick. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to follow us on Facebook for announcements and more.